Hello and welcome to Making Creativity Pay, the podcast where we talk to people in creative industries about how they promote and market their work. I'm Dan Barnett, and on this episode I spoke with comedian Brit Barron about her upcoming Fringe show, Church. We talk about how her experience as a megachurch pastor was a starting point for the show, how Fringe prep is currently the equivalent of a part-time job, and the experience of getting a Fringe show up and running for someone who's based in the US, and has never been to the Fringe previously. We also talk about her other experiences, including publishing non-fiction books, having a TED Talk, and performing at Netflix as a joke. I started by asking Brit to give a brief introduction about herself.
I'm Brit. I'm a comedian out of Los Angeles, California. I describe myself as a late-in-life comedian. Stand-up was something I've always loved, but didn't get into until my late 30s. And I have a one-woman show that I'm taking to the Edinburgh Fringe this year.
So your show, Church, I don't know if you wanted to kind of briefly talk about kind of what it is and how long you've been working on it, because I know I've seen kind of looking through your Instagram, it's been probably more than a year that it's been percolating and coming together.
Yeah, so I grew up very religious, and as a result of that, by the time I was in my mid-20s, I was a pastor at a megachurch, which is quite a unique experience, kind of the pinnacle of evangelical life in my community. And through a series of events, figured out I was queer, married a woman, came out. That was obviously not good with the church. And so part of me in doing comedy wanted to create something that was reminiscent of so many of the experiences I had. And so my show is called Church, that I've been dreaming about for a while. We've been running it for just over a year here in LA. And it's been an incredible sort of experience to take something so deeply personal and make it a show.
So you're saying now, background as a pastor, how similar is that to being a comedian? Is all crowd work the same? Is there a difference?
Honestly, I think sometimes I say I'm a lot less nervous on the stage doing comedy because I got so many reps in at church, which it's kind of a similar audience, actually. They come in and they're like, entertain me. And so I've got a little bit of that under my belt, and I definitely think it helped.
I think you've done like the show, several times in America. I mean, what was the reasoning to come into the Fringe? Was it just something you've always felt? That's what I want to do. That's something special.
Yeah, it's always something I wanted to, at the very least, attend, because I hear so many of the comedians that I look up to or shows that I look up to. And how I discovered the Fringe was I was talking with a friend one day. This is years ago. And he was like, start to pay attention because every show that I love and comedian I love, they did something called the Fringe. And I'm like, what? He's like, I don't know. Just start looking around. And I'm like, okay. And sure enough, I start like connecting all these dots and realize like this is where I wanted to be. And that was like before I got into comedy. And so it was a dream just to go. And then once I got into comedy and created the show, I had a moment where I was like, I think I could do Fringe. And so it's a huge bucket list item. It's a huge undertaking. But it's been something I've wanted to, at the very least, attend. And once this show started getting traction in LA, I thought, oh, I think this could be something I could do.
So you've not been before. Okay, that's a big leap, because I know some
Oh,
people. I mean,
yeah.
obviously, there's obviously an extra cost in going, an extra time, but a lot of people kind of go do a bit of reconnaissance 1 year,
Yeah, that's probably smart, to be honest. Yeah.
but you just thought, no, I'm going. And then as well, some people go and do a show for a week, but you're going, no, if I'm going to do it properly.
If I'm gonna do it, I'm doing it. I'm sending it. I'm doing 24 shows in a month. I don't know when in my life. Maybe every year, who knows? But I don't know when the stars will align again for me to have a show that I feel so passionate about, an opportunity, 4 weeks to be able to do it. So it was very like, let's just send it and do it.
Yeah. I mean, one thing I will say is very sensible. You've got Mondays off. Some people do every day, and I think that's a bit much.
Yeah. I actually came and I'm like, even with Mondays off, I'm like, this is gonna be quite an experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying, talking to other people about it. I mean, have you spoken to people now who have done the Fringe? and kind of gotten any kind of tips or tricks?
Yes. So once you sort of post on social and announce it, it's kind of cool. People, they're like, "Oh, you should talk to my cousin," or "This person did Fringe," and so I've gotten connected to a lot of people who have done it. And even last weekend, a friend of a friend, we were talking, and she was like, "Oh, I did Fringe. I did the 4 week run," and I said, "Oh my gosh, what was the most surprising thing?" And she actually said, "It's colder than you think in Scotland." And I said, "Oh, I didn't think it was gonna be weather related," but I've gotten all kinds of advice, so I'm excited. Everyone, it's cool. You just take it all in. Sometimes people have the opposite like opinions about something, um, but I've been taking it all in for sure.
Yeah. And so for things like the Fringe Society or the venue themselves, have they been much help in terms of kind of getting you prepared and getting things ready?
Oh my gosh, yeah. They've been super helpful. And I sort of had my sights set on one venue, which I know is tricky to do. But that ended up being where I got my show. And so I have just felt so happy about that partnership, and they've been just as great as I thought it would be.
And so kind of looking at it, so yes, you've got 20 odd days, so it's about 1,000 seats altogether, 1,000 tickets to sell. Do you in your head do you see it as I've got to sell 1,000 tickets? I mean, in being honest, in the realistic side, hardly anyone sells out anyway. But in your head, do you think I've got 1,000 tickets, or do you think no, I've got 40 to 50 to sell every day? Do you break it into small tasks, or do you see it as one big thing?
I think about it as small days. I think like every day I'm gonna try to sell. And in my mind, I'm like, there might be a packed house one day. I might be doing the show to one person a day. One show might just be a rehearsal. It might just be me. So I haven't thought about the whole number of tickets, but I'm like, I think every day is gonna be a grind. That's how it is. Um, we've been super lucky. Like we've done 6 shows in LA and they've all sold out. But that has been like it's a grind every time. It's like you're texting people, you're posting, you're doing all of this buildup, and that's you give yourself a month runway to just start selling tickets. And so the thought of it being the final day every day to get tickets is, yeah, I don't know what it's gonna feel like.
Yeah, and you're on at 12:40, so that's a
Yes.
maybe a couple of hours to kind of get people in, or are you thinking more? You'll see people in the evening and say, come to my show tomorrow. I mean, do you have any strategies in mind?
Yeah. I'm gonna see what happens. I think both how I'm pitching it in my brain is it's at church time, right? Essentially, right? So if I catch people in the night, I'll be like, come to church tomorrow. And then we'll get out there a couple early hours early and try to be people's first show of the day and set a great tone.
Yeah, and so are you looking forward to flyering and kind of spreading the message?
Am I looking forward to it? I'm definitely prepared to do it, but it's not something I've ever done before. We're so like disconnected, I think, from promotion because it's socials and email lists and texts. That just walking up to a stranger and being like, "Do you like me?" I think is gonna be it's gonna be a new experience.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, in your head, it's kind of speak to a lot of people about this. In your head, do you know kind of I need to print 3,000 flyers because I'm going to be doing 4 hours a day speaking to 30 people, 50 people an hour, whatever it may be.
Yeah. I mean, so much of this is just taking like trusted advice from people. And someone told me they were like, just max out on the order of flyers. And so I got 10,000 flyers. And I will just be using I don't want to run out. And I have some of my good friends, a lot of my good friends actually from LA are coming. And so I've said like, can't wait to hang out, but also would love for you to just work the streets with me. So hopefully we'll get all of them. But I don't know. I might go home with 5,000 flyers. We'll see. I could put them on my wall. You know.
Do you have like that kind of elevator pitch or that kind of 30 seconds where you stare someone in the eyes and you kind of try and make them come to your show?
Yeah, I've got a couple options. So I feel like the first few days are gonna be field testing what sort of works. I don't know if it should be like a hook or if I should just be like, do you want it? Hey, do you have church trauma? Um, or hey, do you want to hear a queer former megachurch pastor make jokes about her life? Like I, I'm trying to find what maybe will resonate the most. So yeah, it'll be, it'll be a lot of trial and error for the first week.
Yeah, because I mean that's obviously the difficult thing is to get across in that 10 seconds even, or 5 seconds as someone's walking past you, trying not to make eye contact with you. This
Yes.
is this is what it's about. This, there's a lot to pack into it.
Yes. No, there is. And there's not a lot of time, right? It's quick interactions. So I'm like, yeah, I'm practicing a few options.
And so within that, do you see any particular, are you saying about a kind of queer, I don't say story as in narrative rather than but the Greece, are there particular groups you would look to target in terms of communities and things like that? You don't want to necessarily narrow it down, but inevitably there will be some groups who are probably more potentially interested than others.
Yeah, I think so. I think what's difficult is a large group, right, to target that makes sense for the show is people who grew up in church and don't necessarily align with that anymore. But that's not something you could tell by looking. So it's hard to nail down. But I think queer folks and people of color, women, the show's also a lot about those identities that I embody as well. And so I don't know. I'm constantly surprised. I would say in LA, my show is kind of for a younger audience or for these things. And every time the people who show up and enjoy it, I'm like, you're not who I thought would like it. So maybe I don't know actually who it's for. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how that works.
Yeah. And so kind of being a comedy show rather than a talk, I mean, I'll talk a little bit later about, kind of having done a TED talk. How important is truth in terms of kind of having a joke and a story? Can you take liberties with certain things?
Oh yeah, yeah. And I definitely feel like that's a core of stand-up comedy, Anytime you hear a comedian say, a couple weeks ago, I'm like, this already isn't true. Already, this is a made up story to get that point across. And I think that's the fun part of it. And there are a couple of stories in my show that I really like emphasize this really happened. Because this is not an exaggeration for the show. But I think that's the fun part, right? Is you have maybe a couple of stories or ideas or thoughts, you mix them together and you get a lot more liberties there.
You kind of had this show, well, it was called Church at least a year ago. Were you thinking even then that, yes, you kind of putting it together and taking to Fringe, and on the other side, was there part of you thinking, yes, I'd like to, but maybe next year?
I think initially I was just like, can this be a thing? So it's called church. There's live music in the show. It runs like a church service in a lot of ways. Which is just something I had never seen before. So I think when I started the show a year ago, I literally was just thinking, is this a good idea? Will anybody come? Will it be funny? Like, will they enjoy it? And I think after probably the second run, I was like, this might be something I can package and take with me. But initially, I was just like, is this a good idea?
Yeah, and so you're saying you're having music in it, so that's obviously it's an extra thing, but it's also then an extra thing to go wrong, have issues, and to
Yeah,
organize.
yeah,
Is that a difficult balance in terms of how complex you make it versus a straight stand up, as it were?
yeah, totally. And the very first run of it was in a very small black box, and it was just me. And I remember thinking, like, this would just hit so much harder with music. And I'm not personally talented in that department. So that meant adding in LA, the show had a full band, which was quite a large undertaking. At Fringe, I'm bringing a keyboard and vocalist with me. So to strip it down. But it's things that could go wrong. It's whether or not people will like it. It added a lot of nuance, but also I think it gives the show something special that not a lot of stand-up shows have musical acts in them.
And so yes, you've got a crowdfunder because obviously this is not a cheap undertaking.
Yeah.
But obviously within crowdfunders, it's kind of difficult that you've already committed. Whether you raise everything or nothing, you're still committed.
Yeah.
I mean, how have you found the process of kind of running a crowdfunder?
It's been good. I think I was just telling my wife, I was like, so many elements of Fringe that are sort of pushing me aren't the ones I expected, you know, doing the show and getting these things. But the idea of flyering to strangers makes me really nervous and excited at the same time. And it was the same with crowdfunding. I'd never done anything like that. I've never asked like, "Hey, can I have some money to chase a dream?" And it's a super vulnerable thing, And you see these names come in, and it's like my wife's grandparents give money, and an old professor from college, and it's a lot to take in actually. And so it's definitely something I need to do because this is an expensive dream that now currently just lives on my credit card. Um, and it's been a good practice in vulnerability, I think.
Are there certain things that you're going to have to cut your cloth depending on how successful it is? So you're thinking, if I get X, then I can spend it on a poster, or I can get a street team in for flyering and all those kind of things.
Yes, absolutely. So if we get fully funded, we'll get help with a street team. We could do more posters. It's kind of hard because you want your show to succeed, but everything you add is just more expensive. So we'll definitely do more with more budget, and then with less, we'll be out there. I'll probably be doing a lot more myself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it must be such a scary and exciting time at the same, in that you've probably got dozens of different potential universes splitting off from you, where nobody turns up. It's a massive success and everything in between. And that must be exciting, but very scary.
Yes, it's super scary, and you try not to put pressure on the experience, You try not to be like, "Okay, this is gonna change my career forever," or "This is gonna be the best summer of my life," or this I'm trying to keep my expectations low, but, your mind you're like, all these options of what could happen, and, of course, I've followed all these artists for years who sort of had a breakout moment at Fringe, and so, trying to roll back, what are my expectations, and, um, how will I how will I think about it as successful? What does that look like? Um, but it's exciting, it's scary, and sometimes I'm like, "What are we doing?
Mm.
Like, this is a crazy idea."
Because that's the thing. I think, generally speaking, a third full on average is a good run.
Yeah.
But obviously, I think being Gilded Balloon is a big help. You get a lot of footfall, and there's that kind of thing. And then there's other venues where you don't get as much of that. So I think that definitely helps. And yeah, it's kind of weird. You kind of see both. You kind of see some people, they do their show, it does well, it gets picked up by Netflix. Then other people, hardly anyone comes, and they have a breakdown. All these kind of possibilities. And so yeah, so if you've got people there with you, I think that'll help a lot as well in kind of the ups and downs.
Yeah. Luckily, my wife, we're self-employed. She's a freelance creative as well, so she's gonna be with me for the full 4 weeks, which I'm like, "Thank God," because I'm sure at some point a breakdown is imminent.
And are you planning on either doing the show or visiting anywhere else while you're over?
Not as of yet, but I'm open to anything.
Yeah. And so, obviously the Fringe is probably the be all and end all in your head at the moment, but do you see what you'd like to do with the show post the Fringe? And what it can be?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I would love to tour a little, and then do a run off Broadway in New York and be posted up there for a couple months, and then obviously eventually sell it as a special.
So yes, I mean you've done things before. I was looking, you've got a TED Talk with over 300,000 views. Does something like that open doors that you can kind of, you've got that there, you can show people they know that, in the nicest way, you're serious.
Yeah.
You've got something of substance.
Yeah. I think so. It's such a funny being an artist. You kind of don't know what moment leads to another moment. And so, in some ways, I look at myself and I'm like, you have the most random career. But at the same time, I think it is really helpful to be like, yes, I'm a stand-up comedian and I have a TED Talk and I'm a published author. And I sort of have a well-rounded sort of history of things that have been successful to a certain extent.
And so, yes, you mentioned in the books there, so you've got a couple of non-fiction books. And how did you find the process of kind of getting from an idea to being published and then promoting the books and all the rest of it?
Yeah, part of it's exactly opposite from this. It's such a process you do alone. Writing is like it's a solo sport. But similar to in publishing, I have found, and my first book, I thought, okay, this is the publisher's responsibility to make this successful, is an idea I had. And then I realized, oh, their job is to literally publish it. My job is to make it successful. And so I think now every creative like venture I've gone on, I realized I want support, but it's not the Gilded Balloon's job to make my show successful. It's my job to make my show successful. And so you're happy for whatever support comes along the way, but ultimately I think your dreams rest on your ability to move on them.
Would you see yourself moving into non-fiction at all? 'Cause obviously, kind of stand-up is kind of halfway there, as it were, to kind
Yeah.
of going that way. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I think I would like to try that in the future for sure.
you've got enough going on at the moment anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. No, literally I'm like, I'm gonna get through Fringe and then see if I even what's gonna happen.
A couple of months ago, when I was looking, you performed at Netflix as a joke. Did you do part of church, or was it like completely separate?
It was completely separate. It was as a part of like a showcase show. And so I did a set that's some jokes from church, some jokes that I do if I'm just popping in at a club. It was a really, really fun experience because that whole, couple of weeks in LA, it's just comedy, comedy, comedy. And so it was definitely another bucket list item checked off. So I'm doing a lot of dreams this year. I'm just really, really going for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yes, as I was saying earlier, your show's 12:40, so you're finished by 2. Is the plan then to kind of decompress a bit and just see a load of shows?
Yes. I'm I'm almost just as excited to perform my show as I am to see other people's shows too.
Flipping it back on you, so, if someone was gonna give you a flyer or tell you to come see their show, what kind of things would attract you to kind of say, "Yeah, I'll give that a go"?
Yeah, I like something that's gonna be like different, something I haven't experienced or heard of, right? So, um, like have you ever seen a clown, crochet? And I'd be like, I'm a little bit interested. I don't know, right? And so if it's not, something I'm used to, I think I'm more prone to give it a shot.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Normally my comedy going is very kind of basic,
Hmm.
someone doing stand-up. But yes, if you've got some experimental Slovenian theatre with something that's maybe a bit just, yes, you should try and be a bit cultured now and again. And it's probably the only place, yeah, you'd kind of do that kind of thing.
Totally. I'm not doing that in LA. I'm like going to stand up, maybe like catching a couple of theater shows, but I'm not seeing anything too out there.
Going back to kind of, deciding to do this, what was the kind of process, from saying, yes, I want to do it, to having it booked and paid, even if it's paid on credit card? How did you find that process as someone from the US?
Oh, I was just telling my friend the other night, I'm like, if I knew what this was going to be like, I really question if I would have sort of jumped in. I'm glad I wasn't aware. It has been I call it my fringe job. It's been a part-time job. I think since the moment I decided, um, it's been sort of the first step was securing a venue. And that is a really difficult process. It's like emailing every day, sending materials, following up, having a meeting, seeing if you're a match, seeing if you can get somewhere, getting a time slot. Like that was sort of its own job. And then trying to find a producer or PR or posters or flyers, or we have, we're like, if we make merch, where do we get t-shirt? Everything is like 10 steps. And so I think I've been, you know, 10 to 20 hours a week on Fringe since I decided that I want to do it. And it's so funny because every step I'm like, okay, once I get this set, like it'll be chill. And and now we're like a month out and I'm like, okay, I think it's not gonna be chill until we get there. And then it's also not gonna show you.
Yeah, so every day you get an email from someone or something, and then, oh, that's another expense.
Yes, another expense, another form, another, a visa, a letter. And then there's housing and travel, and there's it has been such a fun but also logistical heavy dream.
And so, yeah, getting into the Gilded Balloon, how much of an audition process is it in terms of, they need to, it needs to be the right fit. They need to be
Hmm.
confident that you are of a standard that will sell tickets and everything else. I mean, how does that happen?
Yeah, so they have their own pretty intense application process, where you tell them everything about your show, you upload materials, um, and then because I'm, crazy, I literally asked everyone in my networks, does anyone know anyone at these four events? I think I applied to like Assembly, Pleasance, Gilded Balloon, Utterbelly. And then I went to my networks, was like, does anyone know anyone personally so that I could send a little follow up? And so it was quite the process. Then they email you back and they're like, we want to know more about this. And then you tell them, and then you don't hear anything, and they're like, also tell us about this. And then you tell, so it's sort of like keeping you on your toes. And I did that with a couple of venues, and then they say no or yes, and it's it's stressful.
You're talking about merch there. I mean, have you made any final decision on what you're going to get? Because obviously, it's difficult to kind of get a bit like the flies. You don't want to print 10,000 t-shirts.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah. So, do you have any particular thing in mind at the moment?
Yeah, I think we're gonna do shirts, and maybe stickers or patches, something that's like small enough that if you're like, oh, okay, this won't, take any space in my bag, but I want to support. Um, then we'll do shirts and something small like that.
And then
Yeah.
you're kind of getting that organized and printed and everything in Scotland, I presume, rather than taking a suitcase full of merch with you.
Yes. Yes, which is another process that it's a lot of logistics.
People think, oh, you're doing one 60-minute show a day. Oh, that's nothing. But in reality, it's a lot more.
It's so much. And I mean, on top of that, right? I've never been to Scotland. So I mean, I don't know anything. And so that part's also exciting, to get to experience that. So it's an endless list of exciting, but also organization heavy tasks.
Yeah. And how long before first show do you arrive?
Um, let's see, I get there on the morning of the 3rd, and the first show's on the 5th.
Okay. So you'll
Yeah,
be jet lagged for the third. So then the
yeah.
fourth is gonna go out. Yeah.
Get it together, and then yeah, I think we have like a tech rehearsal the night of the 3rd. So
Yeah. Okay. And so the, the,
yeah,
the fifth is a preview night, I think.
yeah. The 5th and 6th are like preview viewing shows, and then the 7th I think is the first like ticketed official show.
Yeah. And how important is the kind of the PR side, press, getting reviews, all those kind of things? Because I mean, I've signed up. This is the first year I've signed up as part of the media accreditation, so I'm getting press releases and things. And we're still a month out, and I've got like about 250 different press releases to kind of go through.
Yeah, no, it's everything, right? I think it, if you have the greatest show in the world but no one knows about it, um, then it just it it doesn't get to where it needs to go. And so I think getting people to the show, getting your name out there, getting the right people to come and review it, and being able to say, we've got this star review and this star review and this person put us on their list. I think those are huge wins. And so I think that's the benefit to doing a 4-week run, is more opportunities to get eyes on your show.
Thanks to Brit for coming on to the podcast. You can find out more details and show notes about where to find Brit both online and at the Fringe. If you enjoyed this, check out our other episodes of variety of comedians, musicians, authors and others in creative industries talking about trying to make creativity pay. Thanks for listening.